The overwhelming majority of large trafficking transactions, I'm talking 7 figures and up, happen in Los Angeles. You take delivery in one of the 3 regional distribution hubs east of the Mississippi. So for Sinaloa, they operate out of Chicago, New York, Atlanta, and then there's a logistical hub in North Carolina right outside of Bragg. Those are the only 4 places you'll find cartel operatives east of the Mississippi. There are 0 cartel members of Sinaloa in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, Virginia. None of those people that are Mexicans operating in that area are cartel members. They're the customers of the cartel. You see here in the United States, there's just a fundamental misapprehension as to how the cartel organizations are structured and what the very purpose of the cartel is. And quite frankly, their operations are very modest in the United States, contrary to how it's depicted. Quite frankly, there aren't too many operatives in the U.S. See, we've gotten to the point now where being a member of a cartel means you're Mexican. Well, the overwhelming majority of Mexican traffickers in the United States are not associated with any cartel organization. Here in the U.S., we have a very serious problem from the drug trafficking perspective in that you have a large number of foreign nationals operating in the U.S. Within that foreign national drug trafficking set, there's a subset, which are the Mexican nationals. They are the largest. But within that subset, the number of actual cartel guys is shockingly small. Like, I was at a federal prison in California that had 2,000 men, and that prison is known as having the most cartel guys in any prison on the federal system. And out of 2,000 men, we had 1,100 to 1,200 Mexican or Mexican-American traffickers. And out of those 1,200 guys, maybe 25 to 35 guys were cartel. It's shockingly small.
So what prison was that, if you don't mind me asking?
I started off at the maximum security levels, and I made my way down to the California prison, was at the medium at Lompoc.
Okay. And then when you say, what is it that what's the difference or that differentiates the two, just a regular smuggler to a cartel member?
Well, first of all, the cartel isn't a monolith. They don't identify themselves that way. So you may have guys that work for Zambada's organization. They don't identify themselves as Sinaloa cartel. They're just working for Zambada. And so you have a collection of organizations came together to form this structure, each of which take different areas of responsibility. Like, I sent your producer a schematic for the Sinaloa cartel. That network is 44 organizations large. Of those 44 organizations, the overwhelming majority of them are in Mexico. They have nobody in the United States at all. You got maritime operations on the coast in Nayarit, aviation operations in Acapulco. Those guys those have nothing to do with the U.S. Only a handful of the organizations actually have people in the United States. So when you think, for instance, Sinaloa, and I'm from Los Angeles, and Los Angeles has been the home base for Sinaloa now for 35 years. It's their principal base of operations in the United States. Same thing with Jalisco, because Jalisco used to be a part of Sinaloa, so they broke away. They've essentially mirrored each other's operations. Like, I'm not really competent to talk about the Gulf side, because I really had no interactions with those individuals. But with respect to Sinaloa and Jalisco, their operations in the United States are primarily logistical. The majority of the transactions are negotiated in Mexico or in Los Angeles. See, what people don't understand is that the market in the United States is dynamic. The price in Chicago for a kilo may be $23,000 a key. Well, in Los Angeles, it's 18. So if you're going to buy 100 kilos, are you going to pay 2.3 million or 1.8 million? Of course, you come to LA. The overwhelming majority of large trafficking transactions, I'm talking 7 figures and up, happen in Los Angeles. You take delivery in one of the 3 regional distribution hubs east of the Mississippi. So for Sinaloa, they operate out of Chicago, New York, Atlanta, and then there's a logistical hub in North Carolina right outside of Bragg. Those are the only 4 places you'll find cartel operatives east of the Mississippi. There are 0 cartel members of Sinaloa in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, Virginia. None of those people that are Mexicans operating in that area are cartel members. They're the customers of the cartel. See, if you're a Mexican national, you're in a privileged position because you can deal directly with the cartel distributor. So if you're a guy in Cincinnati, you either deal with the distributor out of Chicago, and pay the Chicago price. Or if you have a better connection, you come to Los Angeles and pay the Los Angeles price. If you have an even better connection, you go to Tijuana, you pay the Tijuana price. As you get closer to Mexico, the price is dropping. LA is only 2 hours from the border. So now, guys from New York come to LA, guys from Seattle come to LA. Now they may take delivery from their regional hub. Like they don't deliver the last mile. So if you're out of Cleveland, you got to take possession of the product in Chicago. Now you can either transport it from Chicago to Cleveland or Chicago to Detroit yourself, or you pay one of the local groups, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, non-associated Mexicans. None of those people are cartel. None of the wholesale level customers are cartel. Literally, east of the Mississippi, you might have for the entire Sinaloa cartel cocaine operation, 25 guys. Which is a fundamentally different picture than how it's depicted. Now, west of the Mississippi, they have the primary hub, which is Los Angeles, which is maybe 30 guys. I'm talking, there's less than 65 guys handling the entire cocaine operation in the United States for all of Sinaloa. You'll have a distribution hub in Denver, and then you have a secondary importation hub that's an emergency in Phoenix. They always have redundancies. And that's basically it. There's 5 places in the U.S. where they operate.
Is this... I'm like blown away, and I don't mean to laugh. I'm just kind of shocked. This is public knowledge?
It's very well known throughout the law enforcement community, but you have to understand, law enforcement works on the premise of bringing cases. And in courts, and I spent 20 years of my life in courts. And in courts, they are allowed to use presumptions. And so there's an element of conspiracy law that allows for the government to characterize us as co-conspirators. And so, for instance, if you were from Chicago and you're coming to LA to buy product from me, you're not my customer. The government characterizes you as my Chicago distributor. That's a fundamentally flawed way of looking at it. Now, you can do that in court, but in the real world, it skews the discussion. See, part of the problem we have in our country is that we're not defining the adversary correctly. And if you don't define the adversary correctly, whatever solutions you propose are not only going to resolve the issue you're trying to address, you're actually going to exacerbate the very problem, which is essentially what's happened for the last 40 years of our drug war.